This is a summary of Unworking, a book by Myerson and Philip Ross. While the offices of large corporations may look serene on the surface, underneath they are struggling to adapt. Workers are fed up with rigid, hostile workplace structures. What will a workplace adapted to the opportunities and challenges of the new world of work look like? Myerson and Philip Ross analyze the shifting role of the office since the early 20th century and speculate on its ongoing evolution. This part-historical, part-exploratory study will appeal to anyone preparing for the future of the workplace, either as a user or provider of the office as a service. Let's hear the first takeaway. The modern office came into being over 100 years ago as an extension of the factory floor. Traditional offices employ large workforces with no autonomy, overseen by managers who control all aspects of the work process. Engineer Frederick Taylor introduced the concept of workflow into the white-collar workplace. His 1911 The Principles of Scientific Management became hugely influential. For Taylor, productivity derived from measuring human performance and rooting out defective systems to increase efficiency. He opposed unions and believed workers required constant surveillance to stay on task. He invented the organizational diagram, or org chart, and promoted the influential metaphor of the workplace as a machine. Office design followed suit. Architect Frank Lloyd Wright's Johnson Wax Building, begun in 1936, incarnated Taylor's ideas. It featured large, uniform building plans enabling large-scale efficiency and strict hierarchy, with subordinate workers in central open spaces for easy supervision and managers in private offices. Okay, here's the second takeaway. Backlash against the machine-inspired modern office led to new designs aimed at making the workplace feel like a community. Emphasizing management over individuals made the modern office a synonym for drudgery. In the 1970s and 80s, a new generation of offices incorporated social theories of design. In Europe, powerful white-collar unions embraced offices inspired by community that promoted a less hierarchical, more social democratic style of workplace. These offices reflected a shift from the idea that hierarchy and process drive productivity. They recognized that informal interactions between employees enabled greater efficiency and productivity. Architects of this era put people at the center of their schemes, taking into account the psychological effects of their designs. A new emphasis on human scale, design diversity, and mixed-use spaces created more lively work environments. These offices emulated self-contained communities. Buildings incorporated elements such as main streets where colleagues from all departments and levels could meet and interact. They included cafes, shops, and restaurants, reflecting the new requirement that ex-urban business parks provide for a workforce isolated from the city. Time for takeaway number 3. The rise of the knowledge worker heralds the age of the distributed, networked office. The office as a network is an evolution of the office as a community. It is an outgrowth of the rise of virtual communities and involves the embrace of new communication networks that connect individuals across distances. The repetitive, rigid work of the mechanized modern office no longer reflects the work employees perform. As AI and automation dominate routine work, humans increasingly engage in knowledge work. Knowledge work requires initiative, exploration, and collaboration. In the post-COVID-19 work landscape, many varied intermediary spaces have emerged. Knowledge work takes place in these 4 types of spaces. First, the academy, a campus with high corporate visibility, such as Apple's headquarters. Second, the agora, a porous corporate workplace open to the city and marketplace, such as London's King's Cross redevelopment, home to a transit hub, a large Google office, and many shops and offices. The third, the guild, a permeable workspace dominated by one peer group with low corporate visibility, such as co-working spaces. And the fourth space, the lodge, a home with everything a person needs to do his or her job, such as an internet connection and video conferencing software. Knowledge worker teams can use any combination of these spaces. The networked office embraces an office as a service model that outsources the workplace to specialized vendors. Different workers from different companies share services, spaces, and sense of community. Well-known examples are co-working companies, such as WeWork. These spaces offer a model of membership akin to the private club or medieval guild, offering services for members and a like-minded community working outside traditional corporate structures. In the future, employers will provide a stipend for employees to spend on a personalized mix of workspaces, from the corporate center to flexible offices. Corporate facilities must compete with these third-party spaces in order to justify their costs. We've now reached takeaway number 4. Office design today considers how people feel about work. Beyond providing more amenities and communal space, The next step in accommodating the subjective psychological experience of employees is designing experiences at work, much as a hospitality business would for its clients. New offices attempt to offer intrigue and empathy. Intrigue includes exciting office interiors that inspire delight and awe, such as the spheres of Amazon's Seattle headquarters that house a cloud garden. Awe-inspiring experiences can include curated events such as musical performances. These heightened moments can improve creative thinking, open-mindedness, information processing, and social cohesion. Empathy encourages wellness through fitness and mindfulness spaces or access to natural or biophilic elements such as natural light and greenery. People's well-being needs change as their personal resources and challenges fluctuate, so the most effective interventions take place at a personal scale. Give employees a sense of control over their physical space or promote in-person contact to counteract the isolating effects of distance work. Okay, let's continue. Here's the fifth takeaway. The office reflects the organizational move away from hierarchy and uniformity towards variety and change. The rigid hierarchies developed to make repetitive work processes as efficient as possible have proven inadequate when it comes to modern needs, particularly adaptation and innovation. They create silos and dampen collaboration. Now that offices are only one workplace option among many, innovations in design seek to maximize the core advantages of the office. Ideally, these spaces foster human interaction and favor mentoring, stronger teams, and innovation. Employers want spaces that lead to unplanned collisions of employees to encourage collaboration and innovation, with features such as prominent central staircases that punch through multiple floors and spaces. Circular layouts are part of a trend toward spaces that don't reflect hierarchies, where people encounter each other on an equal footing. The apparel retailer Zappos, for example, operates based on a fixed holacracy, a decentralized organizational model with no hierarchy, managers, or job titles. Innovative companies prioritize small, autonomous teams and encourage constant, informal communication. Their organizational structures do not reflect a static hierarchy, but a collection of tasks and activities. As the activities change, so does the organization, reflecting the idea that work is something you do rather than a place where you go. This concept has been dubbed activity-based working, or ABW. Buildings that support these new organizational styles need to change as teams form and reform, ensuring that groups can be physically near each other when working on related projects. Activity-based clustering, or ABC, is an extension of ABW, takes advantage of data on employee interactions, physical and digital, paired with machine learning software to produce fine-grained studies of how individuals work. ABC places people near other individuals based on their current work. These technologies make it possible to maintain a constant state of beta, designing and redesigning office configurations on an ongoing basis at a speed that would previously have been impossible. Agile, adaptable spaces make sense from the perspective of efficient use of space. A pre-COVID-19 global survey of office space utilization showed that employees used only 55% of workstations, 43% of conference rooms, and 30% of alternative spaces like breakout rooms. The old model of one person, one desk is no longer tenable. A smaller, more flexible office could provide all the space an organization needs, while reducing real estate costs by 30%. Now let's hear takeaway number 6. Spaces within buildings adapt to technology that frees workers from their desks or offices. The future of work will resemble multiplayer online games, teams working together in a virtual space. Co-creating simultaneous work on the same project by all members of a team through shared documents and digital projects will become the norm. The physical and virtual world will coalesce as augmented reality becomes commonplace, enabling real-time communication across distances. Meetings and emails will give way to real-time instant messaging. A partly present, partly remote workforce fuels a rethinking of the conference room to include everyone and stimulate exchange. Google's Campfire technology, for example, situates physically present attendees in a circle, facing screens that display the faces of distant attendees, making them a focal point and granting everyone an in-person presence. Data collection and algorithms will allow individualized experiences for every employee. Replacing assigned desks and using apps connected to the Internet of Things will allow workers to personalize any space. This new freedom will inspire new metrics. Employers will no longer evaluate workers based on the number of hours they spend at their desks. Instead, data on employee activities and contributions will enable employers to measure the results each team member produces. This level of observation presents privacy concerns. However, employers can anonymize data they do not use for individual evaluation. Younger workers have grown up with technology, use it in all areas of their lives, and are accustomed to more digital surveillance. If data collected improves their experience and removes impediments to their work, these workers may justify the trade-off between privacy and efficiency. All right, here's the seventh and final takeaway. Neighborhoods where people work are changing as offices become more porous. Whereas corporate campuses tried to bring all the elements of outside life into the office, new design is opening the office up to the community to provide employees with access to transit hubs, university research, entrepreneurs, startups, restaurants, and retail. Corporations and employees become integrated into their neighborhoods as people work, shop, and live in the same spaces. The rise of gig work and distance work favor the end of centralized business districts full of corporate offices. Employers and gig workers will utilize co-working spaces and other space-sharing models spread throughout the city in mixed-use innovation districts. Rigid zoning will become a thing of the past as developers focus on space that is mixed and interoperable. In the current mixed-use model, tenants with different functions may share a roof, but often ignore each other. In the future, buildings will house tenants chosen to complement each other. That was a summary of Unworking, a book by Jeremy Myerson and Philip Ross. Here's the 7 takeaways again. Takeaway 1. The modern office came into being over 100 years ago as an extension of the factory floor. Takeaway 2. Backlash against the machine-inspired modern office led to new designs aimed at making the workplace feel like a community. Takeaway 3. The rise of the knowledge worker heralds the age of the distributed, networked office. The 4th takeaway, office design today considers how people feel about work. Takeaway 5. The office reflects the organizational move away from hierarchy and uniformity towards variety and change. Takeaway 6. Spaces within buildings adapt to technology that frees workers from their desks or offices. And the final takeaway, neighborhoods where people work are changing as offices become more porous.